Chapter 7. Matthias had never stayed up all night in his life. He was just a bit tired, but strangely excited. Great events seemed to have been set in motion by his news. Immediately upon being informed of the haycart incident, the abbot had insisted upon calling a special council meeting of all Redwall creatures. Once again, Cavern Hall was packed to the doors, but this time it was for a purpose very different from the feast. Constance and Matthias stood in front of the council of elders. All about them was a hum of whispers and muttering. Abbot Mortimer called order by ringing a small bell. "Pay attention, everyone. Constance and Matthias, would you please tell the council what you saw tonight on the road to St. Ninian's?" As clearly as they could, the badger and the young mouse related the incidents of the rat-infested haycart. The council began questioning them.
"Rats, you say, Matthias? What type of rat?"
inquired Sister Clemence.
"Big ones," Matthias replied, "though I'm afraid I couldn't say what kind they were, or where they had come from."
"What about you, Constance?"
"Well, I remember that my old granddad once knew a sea rat," she answered. "Going by his description, I'd say that's what they looked like to me."
"And how many would you say there were of these rats?" Father Abbot asked.
"Couldn't say for sure, Father Abbot. There must have been hundreds."
"Matthias?"
"Oh, yes, Father. I'd agree with Constance. At least 400.
"Did you notice anything else about them, Constance?"
"Indeed I did, Father Abbot. My badger senses told me right off that these were very bad and evil rats."
The badger's statement caused uproar and shouts of "Nonsense!
"Pure speculation!"
and
"That's right. Give a rat a bad name."
Without even thinking, Matthias raised a paw and shouted aloud,
"Constance is right! I could feel it myself. There was one huge rat with a ferret skull on a pole. I got a good look at him. It was like seeing some horrible monster."
In the silence that followed, the abbot rose and confronted Matthias. Stooping slightly, he stared into the young mouse's bright eyes. "Think carefully, my son. Was there anything special you noticed about this rat?" Matthias thought for a moment. Everyone was watching him.
"He was much bigger than the others, Father."
"What else? Think, Matthias."
"I remember. He only had one eye."
"Right or left?"
"Left, I think. Yes, it was the left, Father."
"Now, can you recall anything about his tail?"
"I certainly can," Matthias squeaked. "It must have been the longest tail of any rat alive. He held it in his claw as if it were a whip."
The abbot paced up and down before turning to the assembly. "Twice in my life I have heard travelers speak of this rat. He bears a name that a fox would be afraid to whisper in the darkness of midnight. Cluny, the Scourge." A deathly hush fell upon the creatures in Cavern Hall. Cluny the Scourge? Surely not. He was only some kind of folk legend, a warning used by mothers when youngsters were fractious or disobedient.
"Go to sleep, or Cluny will get you. Eat up your dinner, or Cluny will come. Come in this instant, or I'll tell Cluny."
Most creatures didn't even know what Cluny was. He was just some sort of bogey that lived in bad dreams, in the dark corners of imagination. The silence was broken by scornful snorts and derisive laughter. Furry elbows nudged downy ribs. Mice were beginning to smile from sheer relief. Cluny the Scourge, indeed. Feeling slightly abashed, Matthias and Constance looked pleadingly towards the abbot for support. Abbot Mortimer's old face was stern as he shook the bell vigorously for silence. "Mice of Redwall, I see there are those among you who doubt the word of your abbot." The quiet but authoritative words caused an embarrassed shuffling from the council elders. Brother Joseph stood up and cleared his throat. Ahem! Good Father Abbot, we all respect your word and look to you for guidance, but really, I mean... Sister Clemence stood up smiling. She spread her paws wide.
Perhaps Cluny is coming to get us for staying up late.
A roar of laughter greeted the ironic words. Constance's back hairs bristled. She gave an angry growl, followed by a fierce bark. The mice huddled together with fright. Nobody had ever seen a snarling, angry badger at a council meeting. Before they could recover, Constance was up on her hind legs, having her say.
I have never seen such a pack of empty-headed ninnies. You should all be ashamed of yourselves, giggling like silly little otter cubs that have caught a beetle. I never thought I'd live to see the elders of Redwall acting in this way.
Constance hunched her heavy shoulders and glared about with a ferocity that set them trembling.
Now you listen to me. Take heed of what your Father Abbot has to say. The next creature who utters one squeak will answer to me. Understood?
The badger bowed low in a dignified manner, gesturing with her massive blunt paw.
The floor is yours, Father Abbot.
Thank you, Constance, my good and faithful friend, the abbot murmured. He looked about him, shaking his head. I have little more to say on the subject, but as I see that you still need some convincing, here is my proposal. We will send 2 mice out to relieve the gatehouse. Let me see. Yes, brothers Rufus and George, would you kindly go and take over from brother Methuselah? Send him in here to me. Tell him to bring the Traveler's Record volumes, not the present issue, but the old editions which were used in past years. Rufus and George, both solid-looking, sensible mice, took their leave with a formal bow to the abbot. Through a high-slitted window, Matthias could see the rosy pink and gold fingers of dawn stealing down to Cavern Hole as the candles began to flicker and smoke into stubs. All in the space of a night, events had moved from festivity to a crisis, and he, Matthias, had taken a major role in both. First the big grayling, then the sighting of the cart. Large happenings for a small mouse. Old brother Methuselah had kept the Abbey records for as long as any creature could remember. It was his life's work and consuming passion. Besides the official chronicle of Redwall, he also kept his own personal volume, full of valuable information. Traveling creatures, migratory birds, wandering foxes, rambling squirrels, and garrulous hares. They all stopped and chatted with the old mouse, partaking of his hospitality, never dreaming of hurting him in any way. Methuselah had the gift of tongues. He could understand any creature, even a bird. He was an extraordinary old mouse who lived with the company of his volumes in the solitude of the gatehouse. Seated in the Father Abbot's own chair, Methuselah took his spectacles from a moss-bark case, carefully perching them on the bridge of his nose. All gathered around to hear as he opened a record book and spoke in a squeak barely above a whisper.
Me Lord Abbot Cedric. It is Cedric, isn't it? Oh, botheration. You'll be the new Abbot, Mortimer, the one who came after Cedric. Oh, dear me. I see so many of them come and go, you know. Me Lord Abbot Mortimer and members of Redwall, I refer to you a record of winter, 6 years back.
Here, the ancient mouse took a while to leaf through the pages.
Yes, here it is. Late in November, year of the small sweet chestnut, from a frozen sparrowhawk come down from the far north. Peculiar chap, spoke with a strange accent. I repaired his right wing pin feather. News of a mine disaster, caused by a large savage sea rat with an extraordinary tail. It seems that this rat, Cluny they called him, wanted to settle his army in the mine. The badgers and other creatures who owned the mine drove them out. Cluny returned by night, and with his band of rats, gnawed away and undermined much of the wooden shoring. This caused the mine to collapse the next day, killing the owners.
Brother Methuselah closed the volume and looked over his glasses at the assembly.
I have no need to read further. I can recite other misdeeds from memory. As the hordes of Cluny the Scourge have moved southwards over the past 6 years, I have gathered intelligence of other incidents. A farmhouse set alight. Later that same year, piglets, an entire litter of them, eaten alive by rats. Sickness and disease spread through livestock herds by Cluny's army. There was even a report brought to me 2 years ago by a town dog. An army of rats stampeded a herd of cows through a village, causing chaos and much destruction.
Methuselah halted and blinked over his spectacles.
And you dare doubt the word of our abbot, that Cluny the Scourge exists? What idiotic mice you are, to be sure.
Methuselah's words caused widespread consternation. There was much agitated nibbling of paws. Nobody could doubt he spoke the truth. He was already old and wise when the most elderly among them was a blind, hairless mite, puling and whimpering for a feed from its mother.
Oh, my whiskers, what a mess.
Hadn't we better pack up and move? Maybe Cluny will spare us. Oh dear, what shall we do?
Matthias sprang up in the middle of the floor, brandishing his staff in a way that surprised even him.
Do? He cried. I'll tell you what we'll do. We'll be ready.
The abbot could not help shaking his head in admiration. It seemed that young Matthias had hidden depths.
Why, thank you, Matthias, he said. I could not have put it better myself. That's exactly what we will do. We'll be ready.